All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. This is my first episode back after taking a bit of time off dealing with COVID, and this is a big group. This is kind of a good way to start, just with a crowd of people. And I think the best way to start this off is if the four of you who are here want to introduce yourselves and what you do in the group, and then we can sort of take it from there, because there's a lot of voices, and it would be nice for listeners to be able to put a name to the voice. So I guess I'll start on my left, on my screen anyway, and that's Kyle. So if you want to start by introducing yourself,
Sure.
and we'll go from there.
I'm Kyle. I play saxophone in Dirty Catfish Brass Band, and I'm the band's manager.
Cool. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. My name is Aaron Chodaker. I'm the keyboard player for the band, so I play piano, organ, guitar, accordion. I also do sing backup for the band, and yeah.
Cool. Anyone else?
I'll go next. Sure. I'm Andrew Littleford. I am one of the two trumpet players in the band, and I also do a decent amount of arranging and stuff for the band as well.
Cool. Then we got one more here today.
And I'm Joel. I play trombone. I'm one of the trombonists now, and I do tech stuff, audio and video as well.
Cool. What is the total size of the band at this point? Because I feel like, I was trying to figure it out just by looking at pictures and videos, and depending on, has it been the same sort of size the whole time, or have you sort of shifted in and out in terms of the amount of members?
Yeah, so we started as a 9-piece, and we are now 8-piece.
Okay.
But we sometimes grow to be a little bit bigger for bigger shows. We have other people that joined the group. Great percussionist Scott Senior was a one-time member of the band when we were a 10-piece, and then he's kind of just decided to join us when we are doing bigger shows.
Right.
So we still kind of ebb and flow, but full-time members were an 8-piece.
Okay. And then like, you've been doing this for, I guess it's probably over a decade now, and this whole situation everyone's in with COVID, I'm sick of talking about it. I'm sure you're sick of talking about it, but I mean, we've gone through 2 years and a bit where shows for any type of musicians really haven't been able to happen at all. So, over the course of doing this show every week during this pandemic, I've talked to people about different styles of music, and you could have like a folk singer who accompanies themselves on acoustic guitar, and they don't really have any issues because they can still write. There's no one to get together with to rehearse. But I mean, you have a big band like this. How has this been in terms of just trying to be together and work on music, because social distancing and restrictions and all that?
I think it's obviously been a challenge. It's been a challenge for everyone.
Yeah.
There were certainly times where we just couldn't rehearse because there was capacity of 5 people in a private residence, and there's more than 5 of us, and sometimes we would do little writing sessions. And I think for musicians in large, certainly personally, there was a period where I just kind of woke up every morning and went, okay, how do I have to reinvent myself today to survive? And we spent a bunch of time in studio when we were able to do that, and plugging away at our upcoming album of all original music. And then, we just kind of, same thing, ebb and flow with, well, this is allowed, so we can get together and rehearse, and now it's not, and now there's gigs, and now there's not, and
I guess that's still the case right now too, right? I mean, now there's gigs, but no one knows for how long. Hopefully it continues, right? But does having been a band for as long as you have, that's got to help, right? Even if you have this kind of enforced time off, you have sort of the muscle memory of playing together for so long, and I imagine that would be I guess a positive for you guys that maybe some other bands that are newer wouldn't have.
Totally, yeah. We've been playing together for a long time, and we've played a lot of gigs. And I want to say it was around July that we, in maybe the first or second summer, where we played our first gig, and we hadn't played gig in who knows 6-7 months, and it actually was pretty good. We were very surprised on how well it went, just because we're just so used to each other. We played this music for so long, and it's so elastic and loose and to begin with, just in its nature. So yeah, it was kind of like riding a bike in that sense, but it's probably due to the fact that we have been playing together for 10 years.
Well, I know you've recorded, you, like you said, you're working on new stuff. But I feel like the type of music you do is it lends itself obviously really well to a live setting, right? I mean, even just seeing the size of the group on stage, it's part of the appeal, and you just see all these horns coming at you and stuff, right? So I mean, that's got to suck too, right? Not having the opportunity to interact with an audience that way. I mean, I know you have recorded music you can share during this time and everything, but what has it been like, sort of not having that live element that I assume you thrive on?
Well, I think like what you were saying before about having been doing it for 10 years or so, now that things are opening up, we are getting lots of opportunities to play again. So I think that's kind of one of the strengths right now is we're starting to see things open up, and we're booked like maybe 3 or 4 shows a month now with private events, 2 monthly events happening in the city. But yeah, when things were closed, there was not much. We just kind of decided to take some time for ourselves, and instead of rehearsing or instead of playing gigs, we played more golf and hockey, and just hung out and just kind of built our friendships and just kind of got closer in that way.
I think
Well,
too
and
that
oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh, sorry, that first gig that Andrew was talking about was induced such a state of euphoria for all of us, just because, yeah, you're exactly right that it's live, and even when we're recording stuff, we often kind of figure out how we're gonna how it works live, and then we figure out how we can put it down on an album. But that that first gig back, I mean, kind of erased all the unpleasant memories of the previous 6 or 8 or 14 months or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Did you have more of a like after that gig? Was there another break between? Was that in that brief time when shows were allowed to happen again, or was that more recently?
Yeah, we had a good run at we had a couple gigs at the Blue Note and the Beer Can, kind of coming out of that. Winnipeg was super lucky to have venues like that
Yeah,
that jumped on it right away and just kind of opened and said, "Hey, we can accommodate all of these restrictions. Come and play. People come and hang out." And so that was great, that we had entrepreneurs and music lovers in the city that did that. So we had a few gigs before things kind of shut down again.
well, I guess one of you mentioned a few minutes ago too, playing private gigs and things like that, and I guess that you have a bit of a different approach to things than say a band that only plays clubs or only plays bars or only plays things like that. I mean, you have it's seemingly a pretty wide range of the type of shows that you do. Do you have was that always sort of the goal with this band, or is that just how things worked out based on who was hearing you and who was getting interested in the type of stuff you're doing?
But yeah, I don't know that it was necessarily a written goal, but we were always trying to. We knew our music was, or we knew the music we were playing could fit in a lot of different places. Uh, at the root of it, we're just trying to make people feel good and try to get people to dance.
Yeah.
So that can happen in a lot of places, I guess. So we can do it like we're lucky that we can play festivals, or we can fit on festival stages and in nightclubs and background music at corporate events and celebrations. Like we've played our well, Todd, who's not here tonight, he always talks about how we are really lucky to be a part of so many different parts of our community. So we've played at weddings, we've played at funerals, we've played at birthdays. So yeah, we can play pretty much anywhere. It's awesome.
That was some of our gigs when things opened back up. Was we did some birthday parades. So people were having birthdays, and we just would show up at their house. Usually, it was a surprise to the person whose birthday it was, and all of a sudden, there's just this brass band walking down the street, and we'd go for a stroll, and everyone from the party would follow us, and that's I've never been in a band before that does that kind of thing. So it's really awesome. It's always fun.
It's very cool just having the advantage of being completely acoustic and be able to literally play anywhere. Not too many bands have that capability.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have to? I mean, obviously you have to alter your set a little bit if you're playing a funeral versus a birthday party. But I mean, like, do you sort of have like I guess a core set you play for different types of shows, or does it develop on the fly? Like, do you say, okay, this week we were playing a funeral and a birthday party and a club? How do you figure out sort of which stuff to play? I mean, there's obvious things you're not going to play at a funeral, for example, but you know what I mean? Like, is there how malleable, I guess, is your set?
There's very malleable for sure. We got lots and lots of tunes in our book that we've played. Some of them that we haven't played for years, and I'm sure we could play it on a gig tomorrow and probably do decent on it. But there's definitely ever changing. Every single gig has a different set list and is geared towards the gig that we're playing for sure. So sometimes it's completely all New Orleans music, and other times we want to kind of present our own music and we play a whole set of almost virtually all original music. So it will definitely depend gig to gig for sure.
Well, I was going to ask about the original music, because I mean, obviously you have been doing original music, you are doing original music, but then you look at, you know, your YouTube, for example, and you're getting hundreds of thousands of views on the Taylor Swift cover, and all these covers are getting tons of attention. And obviously, you know, you're playing birthday parties and things like that. Cover songs are going to be part of the appeal. Was it hard initially to sort of convince people that your original stuff was as worth listening to as these covers? Because I don't mean to be like insulting or anything, but I can see people taking it as a novelty sort of at first, before sort of realizing what the band was, you know, just seeing, oh, it's a marching band, haha, right? And thinking, oh, they're doing covers of these pop songs and everything. But I mean, was it a hard sell to mix your own original stuff in with some of those, whether it's standards or covers of, you know, popular, more modern songs?
I don't know that I certainly have no knowledge of us ever experiencing any resistance
That's good.
from for our originals. I think generally when people come, they know it's going to be a party. They know they're going to be able to dance. There's going to be lots of energy. I think artistically, we definitely had conversations and continue to have conversations about how many covers we want to do, what percentage of our rep that is, because there's great brass bands who have gone down that road and decided, okay, we're going to be a brass band that covers pop tunes, and we decided we didn't want that to be what we were known for. And I think everything kind of melds together, because what we're known for is live shows where you come and have fun, which is great.
Right, and you can have take from all those different areas for live show for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then what does it mean for you? I mean, when you get something like that, like a cover song that gets just a ridiculous amount of views on YouTube, what how do you even approach that? Like, it's got to be super weird, because it's definitely not your core audience that is checking this out. Like, what is that like, sort of suddenly turning on, you know, your YouTube channel and suddenly there's just this, you know, triple digits in the thousands?
I can answer this one.
Sure.
You know, for me, I think it was the craziest thing is to see the messages and the audience that this hits, right? I mean, you're thinking, okay, I'm playing a gig at the Times or, you know, something local, and then you get an email or a message from somebody on the other side of the planet who's going, I'm checking out your stuff and I'm loving it. And that's so cool.
Yeah.
You know, I remember one of the first messages was someone from like Dublin, Ireland, that sent a message to us, and you're going like, wow, that's really far away. And to think that, you know, we recorded this, you know, without any thought of that, you're just doing this for fun, and then on the other side of the planet people are enjoying it. So it's really kind of neat to have that. And I mean, for me, the number of views, it's cool, but the idea that that's just reaching that many people is really the thought that I like, is, you know, that many people have gotten an opportunity to see us that you just never really kind of had that plan when you did it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, actually. Yeah, that must be a nice feeling to see that. Yeah. Well, I guess, I mean, like, what you're doing too is something that has a pretty wide appeal, right? I mean, just evidenced by the type of shows you're playing. Do you have sort of is there like a typical fan of your music that you can kind of pinpoint, or is it just really a wide range depending on, I guess, the venue and what's happening at the time?
I think it's a huge range for sure. Like we like our time show that we do on a monthly basis is the Nolan night is a perfect example of that. Like the early show, which is 7 to 9, is has a lot of, you know, older people, an older crowd that doesn't want to stay out till 1 a.m.
Yeah.
It also has families and kids, you know, under the age of 10 even are there, and everyone's there dancing. Yet we play the late show and start at 11:30, and that's a completely different crowd, and they love it too. And then we play, you know, kids fringe at noon, and we have kids, like we appeal to a lot of different people. So
I've seen you at the kids fringe with my kids. Yeah. They dug it. Yeah. So yeah.
Right on. Yeah. So I mean, I don't think there's a specific type of audience member or fan that we can really pinpoint for sure. Like yeah, sorry.
When it comes to your original music too, I mean, you're obviously all accomplished musicians. I was reading your bio on your website, and it seems like there's a pretty uh, serious academic background as far as music for a lot of you as well. Plus, you've been doing this for as long as you have, and all that. I mean, you clearly, the band has that New Orleans influence. You're influenced by more modern stuff, as evidenced by the covers. What are you trying to, I guess, put across with your original music? What are you drawing from as far as influences for creating something that's original and unique? Because there's clearly a lot of background that you're all coming from.
Mhm.
I think that's usually a challenge. I mean, we often end up writing in smaller groups because there is so much influence. Um, you know, classical music, all of the orchestral. Todd, you know, trained as a orchestral French horn player, um, and then Andrew and Kyle went to Brandon for jazz, and I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place. Aaron is like a roots guy, taught himself everything and is just like a library on different kinds of music. So what we often struggle with is finding something that you know that just speaks to everyone, because you know there are 8 people sitting in a room. You know, everybody has an opinion about music, but especially the 8 of us who've been living it for so long that we can nitpick anything.
Sure.
So that's why we hire producers who come in and say, okay, you know, stop, you've nitpicked this enough, just play.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
one thing I've kind of tried to do, bringing in a couple songs for this latest recording project was think about covers that we do, or think about songs in our set that aren't ours that go over really well, and then use that kind of for a template as like, oh, we should have a song that's like that, or
Okay.
kind of think of a theme, or think of a style, or think of an artist, and then try to write something in that style that also fits the skills of the band, fits the theme of the band, you know, just kind of fits with us. So that if our goal is to try to play less of other people's music and more of our music, but we know what of other people's music people like, that kind of thing, we kind of have just replaced some of that. It's been one way we go about it with thinking of ideas.
I'd say one thing just to add to that is a lot of the times it ends up being that kind of collaborative group effort where someone comes in with ideas or their perspective or how they want it, and then by the time we're done composing the whole song, it's just gone in so many directions, and everyone kind of got what they wanted in it or out of it, or
Right.
it's kind of neat that those changes happen where Joel nailed it. Like sometimes working with a producer who's kind of on the outside who doesn't have an interest specifically, but I know for myself, like I'm very much just feel oriented. So when I'm thinking, we're listening to something like it's not feeling right. I don't know what to say. I can't really identify it, but like I'm not doing this or like, but then you get the guys who are super savvy and well trained and can chart out everything. And I mean, that's such a huge asset to have. So it's great
Sure.
to have the collaboration where, at the end of it, it's not, or maybe it's not so at the beginning to have the goal. It's more so the process is really fun. And the product ends up kind of showing that where you have all these different influences and ingredients that really made it.
So if you have a couple EPs out, right? Is that it, or is there more than just 2? I think you have 2 and then a single or something, right?
Yeah,
that
we've
sound-
got 2 EPs out, and then one from Jazz Fest 2019, one
Right,
live
right.
little 3-track EP on Bandcamp. But we have a new collection. That's kind of what we've all been talking about, is music that nobody's heard, or they maybe have heard at our shows because we've been playing some of it for a while. But it's all yet to be released recordings.
Well, I guess with that new stuff then that you're working on, I mean, how do you capture that? Because as we discussed, the live thing is important, right? Having that kind of wanting people to dance and having that whole vibe. How do you capture that on a record successfully? Because I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of bands that are amazing live, and it just doesn't work on record, or vice versa. And it's obviously like a balance you have to achieve of getting kind of that energy and that in your faceness, and then also making sure that it's all their I's are dotted and T's are crossed on the studio side of things. So how do you balance those two? How do you get the live sound or the live energy, I guess, on a record?
I don't have a whole lot to say, but the thing I think that we're starting to realize that works a little bit better is to have less layers, or like just having as much of it, as much of the product being played at the same time as possible. I guess if what I'm trying to say, like make beds of rhythm section and then all the horns, and not try to separate the horns, and try to have as many people play at once at the same time, kind of is the best way I think we've so far found that we can kind of recreate that live feel.
Cool.
That's my 2 cents, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely been a process of experimentation, because our first album, we I mean, none of us had ever recorded a New Orleans brass band, and we weren't really sure how it was going to work out. So we just kind of all piled into the studio, and I think picked some of the tunes that we were going to put on the album in the studio, and we just kind of rolled tape, and you know, it turned out pretty good. But then coming away from that, I think we did go through a period where we were experimenting a little bit with, you know, recording things separately, and getting into that really isolation sound. And again, there's some New Orleans style brass bands, like Youngblood. They do that. They just, like, everything is so meticulous, and it's very, very, very detailed and very, very isolated, and then they combine it together in this huge sound. And yeah, the process that, like Andrew was saying, the process that works for us is kind of somewhere in the middle, that we have control over it. And you know, after we've got the main parts down, then you know, we track vocals separately, obviously, and Aaron goes in and overdubs, you know, organ and keys and clav, and you know, layers that stuff in, and then Scott Senior goes in and does percussion, and so there's layering, but keeping the horns as a group, keeping the rhythm sections as a group seems to work really well for the final product. And this new album coming up, there's some pretty exciting music on there that just you know, feels good to listen to. So
Cool.
I'd add one thing to that, which is I think a lot of it comes down to the people involved too. I mean, you know, one thing working with Murray that I've kind of experienced is that, you know, and Lloyd, to be honest, the engineer and the producers, they really drive those performances from the artists. I mean, you know, going into the studio with, you know, Cody and Steve, I mean, those guys, you know, we don't call it a done track until it feels great. And you're like, this is what, like, that felt, you know, you gotta imagine the audience, you gotta have that energy there, you gotta bring the game like it's, you know, 2 a.m. and you're just pumping at it. And working with those people, you really do kind of get those moments, and you know, you feed off each other, and it's real solid players that really also up the game in that makes it it is a game changer, really.
Cool. Do you have a timeline for when this is going to be released, the new one, or I'm assuming COVID has kind of thrown a wrench in all of that as well, right?
Yeah, no specific timeline yet, but there is one of the songs was released on the Times Change. Still got a lot of I think we still got a lot of living to do. They did a fundraiser album. So one of our songs, Come On Now, which is maybe one of the more traditional sounding kind of blues honky tonk kind of sound to it, that is on that compilation. And the rest of the stuff, we are in the final stages of editing. All the tracking has been done, so the remaining songs will get mixed and mastered hopefully within the next couple of weeks, and then from there we'll start figuring out what we're going to do with it.
Cool. Well, one of the things I was thinking too is, I mean, you know, obviously once you have this done, it'd be great to get it out there and for people to hear this, you know, for the first time. I'm sure you've been living with it for a while, just as the people who created it. But how do you, I mean, I think with most bands that I talk to on here, there's a very kind of obvious way that they promote a new record or how they market themselves. And, you know, whether it's a rapper or you know, a punk band, how do you, what do you even call sort of, I don't want to say what genre is it, but when you're trying to sell your record and you're trying to get, you know, whether it's getting getting on festivals, things like that, how do you market yourselves? You just call it like a New Orleans style brass band, or how do you term it?
Yeah, I think that's the clearest distinction. There is I think that would be the categories, New Orleans style brass band, but we then also are a little bit unique within that tradition because we have a keys player and a full drum kit and a really awesome lead singer.
Yeah.
We kind of fall into funk and soul, like modern funk as well, I guess you could say. But then we also don't have a guitar player, so it's all It's all up in the air.
Well, and then there's obviously jazz elements too, right? And I mean, like, so yeah, you're kind of straddling a bunch of genres.
Yeah, I guess if we're trying to sell it to a live setting, like if we're trying to sell it to festivals, it's dance music. It's like that
Party
large
dance, yeah.
ensemble party group that you see at a lot of festivals. That's
Yeah.
kind of the ticket we're trying to fill when shopping for festival buyers.
And then I guess probably a lot of your album sales, I would imagine, are just from shows, right? You probably get a lot of people just buying it off the merch table.
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe not
we
so much
haven't really,
recently, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't really tried, or we haven't done a recording. It's been a while since we've put a recording out to really the way music has been consumed or how it's changed in the past even 5 or 6 years. Like the last EP we did was really just when Spotify was and streaming was kind of just starting to really ramp up. So the whole playlist approach, the whole curator way of getting your music heard is we're still learning how to navigate that.
Well, I think it's difficult for everyone too, because I mean, especially every band that's been around as long as you have, because the things have changed so quickly in such a short amount of time too, in the way that just like you said, the way people consume, not only the way they buy things, but just the way they listen in general. I mean, people often won't even buy a record anymore. They just sit there on YouTube or something and you know, just watch the videos and stuff. So yeah, it's like a weird dystopian future we're all in. But if people want to hear you, I mean, I know that like within Winnipeg, and which is the majority of people listening to the show, you're kind of a known quantity. I mean, people have probably seen you live at one of thousands of events. But if someone's hearing about you for the first time on the show, what's the best way to check out your stuff? Where would you direct them to find your music and to, I guess, keep in touch with what you're going to be up to in the future?
I think the best way is to come see us.
Yeah.
For sure, that would be the best way. So, you know, we got shows happening all the time and people can keep up to date with that on our website, which is just dirtycatfishbrassband.com. And it's all up to date on our socials, on Instagram and Facebook. And that's all Dirty Catfish Brass Band.
Cool.
Is our handle on all of those. And then, you know, you can check out some of our stuff on YouTube and some of our stuff on the streaming platforms. But to get a real taste for the band and what it is that we do, live is the place to go. So we're at the Times Changed on Main Street around the first Friday of every month, at least once a month. And we've got something new started up where we'll be at the Rec Room the last Saturday of every month. That's a place we've just kind of started playing there, and we are finding that it's you know, has a lot of potential to meet a new audience and have some people stumble onto the band that may not know that Winnipeg has a New Orleans style brass band in their hometown. So
cool.
And then shortly after this airs, we will be doing a show on Bad Thursday. That would be April 14th, Thursday, April 14th at Park Alleys.
Oh, cool.
It'll be our first time there. So a good friend of ours, Carrie, does all the booking, and we've been trying to get in there for a while. Schedules are finally lining up. So that's what I would say. Come see us.
Awesome.